Hello, welcome to Deep Into Sleep podcast. I'm Dr. Yishan, a board-certified behavioral sleep medicine specialist. And earlier this year, I also got my board certification of sex therapy. I'm always curious about the connection between our sexual health and our sleep health. In my previous episode, I did talk about how sleep apnea may be related to male sexual dysfunction. From today's conversation with our guest, Dr. Elliot Justin, I also learned how many times men have nocturnal erection actually could predict their health conditions. Dr. Justin shared with us some amazing data, totally new and shocked to me. If you're as curious as I am, let's find out more. I'm so happy to have a medical doctor joining us. I know you have a lot of great experiences across different medical fields. And as I just got my sex therapist certification, I realized how much sexual health actually is well connected with all the other, sleep, well-being, mental health. Can you share with us your journey? What got you into this interest of figuring out sexual health and other aspects?
Well, two things. Well, one, by background, I'm an emergency medicine physician. I can assure you that short of a heart attack or a stroke, nothing concerns a man emergency-wise as much as a penis that's not working. And every woman knows this, every man knows this, and it's a huge problem today. 50% of men by age 50 have erectile dysfunction, and the number goes up 10% per decade thereafter. And even at age 30, it's about 25%. So this is, and the numbers for women are even higher. So this is a major problem that has impact on people's mental health and their overall health as well too. We can get into that in a moment. But how did I get into this? I was years ago I founded the second oldest telehealth company in the United States, and that got me interested in remote patient management technology. A urologist. I live in Montana, and I ride horses, and I sometimes ride horses with a bit too much spirit. So in 2015. I broke 6 vertebrae and 6 ribs, knocking a tree over. And that, unfortunately, my spinal cord wasn't damaged, but that got me interested in what's been done to rehabilitate men, spinal cord injuries, sexual ramifications of spinal cord injuries in men and women since my medical career started in 1979. And so there were some claims in the medical literature, papers coming out of Taiwan, United States, and Egypt, that they're able to neuromodulate men sexual function in men with spinal cord injuries. Neuromodulate meaning like cardiac pacemaking, placing an electrode, in this case by the pudendal nerve or the cavernous nerve, everyone's favorite nerves that no one has ever heard of, but the nerves are responsible for erection, ejaculation, and for orgasm. And that intrigued me. And I started out by testing on 2 rams, male sheep, and we got erection, ejaculation, but we also got defecation, urination. So it wasn't bedroom friendly. So I thought, ordinarily what people do is they go out and raise $15-20 million, and they go off to some place like Brazil or Nigeria, and they then test it out on men. I wasn't comfortable with that, so I tested on myself. I had a urologist friend at the university. He was a professor at the University of California, San Francisco. He had a private clinic, and I had him plant an electrode by my cavernous nerve, my pudendal nerve, and nothing happened. Granted, I'm just one person, but I stopped the experiment at that time. I called it Project O for obvious reasons. I don't think we actually know how erections are produced in men and women. I think we understand the physiological process in terms of, well, you have to have functioning nerves, you have to have good blood flow. But in terms of overall what produces it, I don't know. It's fascinating because in the body, everything involves electricity. What are the signals that actually do this? I don't think we know. But anyway, a urology professor at the University of Utah heard about my experimentation and said, hey, now it's 3 years ago, I want to come up with a way of counting the number of nocturnal erections that are a leading indicator of a man's cardiovascular health. I don't think most doctors, and certainly almost no one in the world, understands that a healthy man has 3 to 5 nocturnal erections per night. We talk about morning wood, but it's not enough. We all joke about, he's got an erection in the morning. We joke about it, but that's not enough. A healthy man should have 3 to 5. If that number goes down, it's predictive of a heart attack or a stroke. Now that's powerful. Wow. In medicine, we treat associations. So high blood pressure is associated with heart attack and stroke, but they're not predictive unless it's really high. But if your blood pressure, man's blood pressure, a woman's fluctuates between, say 130 and 160 systolic, it's not predictive. Whereas if a man's nocturnal erections goes from 5, 2, or 3 to 0, that man has a 50% chance of having a stroke, having a heart attack in 2 years, and over 80% chance of having a stroke in 3 years. Those are big numbers. So when this urologist told me this, I thought, that's fascinating. This could be like a sixth vital sign. And what could be more motivating to men about their health than their sexual performance? What do men care more about? How many steps they took yesterday, or even the quality of their sleep, or their erections? And that's a rhetorical question. We know we know what men really care about, most. So, and by the way, the same thing probably is true in women. We just don't. No one has studied nocturnal clitoral arousal since Mass and Johnson, and they did it in a very crude way. They just woke up women every hour. So we intend to study that as well. Anyway, this doctor said, I want to count number of nocturnal erections, and I thought, why limit ourselves to what's going on when men are sleeping? Let's come up with a way of measuring all erections. So our device, the Tech Ring, is the world's first monitor of a man's sexual health. That can one overnight. It counts the number of nocturnals and how long they last. That's a measure of it's a reflection of a man's cardiovascular health, or medications they're taking, or in your field, which is sleep. Every episode of quality sleep in a healthy man is accompanied by an erection. So we're actually, our engineers, largely male group, say that they're capturing about 10% more REM sleep by measuring the duration of the nocturnal erections than what they are with a wearable, a Whoop or an Aura or a Fitbit, these peripheral things that people have. So, and we're going to do. Actually, we're looking for a sleep doctor to do research on. Perhaps you'd be interested, because that become another reason for men to follow their what we call their erectile fitness, their nocturnal scores. One, during sex, the device measures how hard men are and how long they last. And with that information, men can then measure the impact of diabetes, hypertension, atherosclerosis, other vascular diseases, medications. And one of the ways in which we doctors ill-serve people is we prescribe medications that have a negative impact upon their sexual health, with antihypertensives and the antidepressants being the worst offenders. And God, when it comes to the SSRI antidepressants, I really wish that people would not take them, because I don't think no one's ever proven they have long-term benefits, and they have a lot of dangerous side effects. But what people can do when they can measure what's going on is, the phrase in the biohack community is track it to hack it. When you have data, you can actually say, since I started on this antidepressant or this antihypertensive, my sexual performance is deteriorating. It's harder for me to get aroused. It's harder for me to climax. Well, people can now look at can say, well, what's the dose? Maybe I'm taking too much. I can come back on the dose and see and see with this wearable that we have, what it is. I'm so frankly exasperated by the way in which we treat doctors. That is, sex. We are a huge part of the problem. We never ask our patients, what's going on with your marriage? What's going on in your partnership? What's going on with your sexuality? And we should. This is so important to people, as you know from your practice. I'm 71 years old. I've never had a doctor tell me about the sexual side effect of the medication. My wife, who's 70, has never had anyone warn her about the sexual side effect of medication. Yeah, when you go through menopause, they recommend some cream, but they don't ask about what's really going on. And it's really, if you or I, we're both different ages, different genders, different ethnicity. If we went to a doctor and said, I have chest pain, and the doctor looked at a doctor just said, take a pill, we would think he's an idiot. We expect the doctor to ask questions. When do you have chest pain? What makes it worse? Well, people should be asking questions like that about sex, but but in the electronic health record, with Epic and Allscripts being the big ones, there are no questions about sex. So already we have, we're inhibited about talking about sex, and doctors don't take the lead, and people are too inhibited often to raise the issue with their doctors. Instead, they'd rather go online and order pills, which could be a mistake, because pills could mask a problem. especially in an older man. So doctors need to ask these questions. We need to challenge them. And they're not going to ask these questions because there's no money in it. They don't make any money by asking about this healthcare system. Whereas when it comes to chest pain, if they don't ask the questions, the machine tells them, you must ask these questions. You must rule out these other conditions: pulmonary embolus, peptic ulcer disease, dissecting aneurysm. If someone complains of chest pain, well, if someone complains they have erectile dysfunction, man or woman, they don't ask questions, and they should. So one of the most important questions in a man is, can you attain an erection, or is your trouble that you can't sustain an erection? Because those are two very, 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 very different groups. I'm sorry, I've been talking at length. I'm very passionate about this subject.
I can see you are so passionate about that. I actually really amazed by the data you shared earlier. And even though I study both sleep and sex, I was not aware of how nocturnal erection can predict or so closely related to so many other health conditions. That's amazing and important to know, I think, for a lot of people. And I totally agree, by collecting data, use some kind of wearables can help us inform a lot of future discussions, future interventions. And what you mentioned in the doctor's treatment style, it's not only in the office. I have a lot of clients coming to my office was referred by urologists, by other doctors, and they were just giving pills for their erectile dysfunctions, but they actually could have performance anxiety, right? They are totally healthy and normal physically. Right. But the problem also is in the training. When I was a psychologist in my training, and I know a lot of medical doctors training, they don't really talk about sleep that much. They also don't talk about sex at all, almost.
At all, exactly. Our tech ring can actually diagnose psychogenic ED or performance anxiety.
How?
So if a man has a normal number of nocturnal erections for his age, and we have data that no one else has, and this is going to be, we already have 4 papers that have been accepted for publication. There are another 3 underway, and there are 6 that are planned. We have data on 45,000 erections. No one else in the world has that database. And it's about 2 or 3 weeks from now, we're going to be putting out what we've learned about age men 25 to 35, 35 to 45, what's normal. And then in those categories. And then looking ahead, we'll be able to tell people, hey, if you're a diabetic, what's normal? If you're hypertensive, what's normal for your age? Or if you're taking medication X. All this is coming in the future as our database gets bigger and bigger. But the pills put more blood into the penis, but they don't keep it there. So we're actually, that's why I said the important question, first question urologist should ask is, well, you should ask when this occurs and what the circumstances. But if a man can't attain an erection, that man might benefit from a pill, and that man healthcare needs to be managed by a specialist, by a urologist, because if a man can't attain an erection, he has a significant problem. Now, it could be a psychological component, but it's far more likely that this is a vascular disorder or neurovascular disorder. On the other hand, if a man can attain an erection, which is the majority of the case, about 80-85% of erectile dysfunction is in that category. It could be anything. It could be performance anxiety. It could be distraction, boredom, alcohol, recreational drugs, or it could be significant or medical problems, diabetes, hypertension, atherosclerosis, etc. But if a man can already attain an erection, taking pills, not helpful, but not what the man really needs, because he doesn't need blood in the penis. He is losing blood from the penis, and the question is why? Is it because he doesn't like the person that he's with, or is it because he's drinking too much, or is it because so what we have learned, and there's going to be a paper, and the study's almost done. We did an internal study, and there's an independent study being done. I became interested in they're commonly called cock rings. I hope you don't mind my using that phrase.
Okay.
I call them erection rings. The medical community, can you believe this? The medical community calls them penile constriction bands. That's like something like a Nazi phrase. And if someone told me, "Hey, Elliot, Dr. Justin, you need a penile constriction band because you have ED," be like, "A constriction band? I got to talk to someone else because I ain't interested. I already have a problem. Now you want to constrict me?" It's so, you know, imagine if vibrators had a negative word. Let's see, what could it be? Shock therapy. Sound shock therapy. No, it's a so that's why I use erection rings because these things help men to maintain an erection. I wasn't thinking about erection rings when I got involved in this. When this urologist came to me and said, "Hey, I want to count nocturnal erections," I was just thinking about data collection. But this urologist, like most urologists, is what I would call a cock ring virgin. He does no experience with cock rings and erection rings, whatever you want to call them. And I'm married to someone open-minded. She would buy me or probably a sex toy or two a year, and we would use them once or twice, and we'd throw them out because they didn't work. And it was kind of her way of, well, let's just talk about vibrators briefly. Vibrators in my lifetime have been mainstreamed, even in conservative communities, like the Chinese community or the Korean community. They've been mainstreamed. Mainstream in the sense that, my mother's vibrator was in the bottom dresser drawer in a supply closet in the garage. I don't know how often she used it. It was hidden. But we found it, of course, but we know what it was. I don't know how many my wife owns. And back in the 70s or 80s, when I was dating, there was a certain embarrassment for women. Oh, I need a vibrator to have an orgasm. And there's no embarrassment anymore in most communities. There's no embarrassment anymore. They've been mainstream. Our daughter would take him on dates. I mean, she's engaged now, but she would take him on dates. They're mainstream. Whereas cock rings, erection rings for men, they're embarrassing. Not in the gay community. The gay community is very open about this. 90% of gay men who are sexually active use erection rings. Only 10% of straight men do. Well, they're onto something because they want to enhance their performance. They don't see men should not see erection rings as a crutch. They should see them as an enhancer. A well-designed erection ring, as ours is, can be worn not just for 20, 30 minutes like these conventional O-rings that are sold in sex toy stores or online. Those are uncomfortable. They're made out of hard silicone. They pinch. They'll help to sustain erection, but they're choking off the blood flow. Our ring, because once this doctor came to me and said, "I want to count nocturnals," I said, "Well, let's count all erections." So I had to rethink the erection ring. So our rings are made out of a soft, comfortable elastomer. They don't block the arterial flow in, so the man can put it on when he's flaccid. It doesn't have to be fully erect for it to work. They only constrain the venous return. Like imagine a sink that's 80% plugged. You can still the venous blood can still drain out, so they're safe. They can be worn for long periods of time. And ours were designed to deliver to men what vibrators deliver to women, which is a more profound orgasm. Our rings are designed to put pressure over the urethra to prolong a man's orgasm, not cut it off, but prolong the ejaculatory phase and produce a more intense orgasm. So for me, and that's our most popular item is the non-technology ring, is the maximum performance ring. We sold thousands of them because it's about a man lasting longer and having a better orgasm. Well, guys' reaction, we have a joke at like the American Neurological Association convention. How do you tell the difference between a gay doctor and a straight doctor? One question. Do you use a cock ring? Gay doctor, last night you got a better one. Straight doctor, oh, I don't need that. Well, it's not about it's not about need, it's about want. Ask any man, do you want to last longer and have a better orgasm? Well, the answer is going to be yes. So men need to open their minds about the benefits of erection rings because we all need them and we should all want them. Why? Because we will last longer and be more confident. So before you touched on the major cause of performance of ED in men is or anxiety, or anxiety is contributing to it. Even that diabetes or hypertension, anxiety is contributing to it. A ring holds the blood in the penis, and that's what men need in order to. The more blood you hold in the penis, the longer you last, the better the orgasm, and you're then more confident. A man is then more confident, he's not going to lose his erection, And once a man starts thinking about losing erection, they lose it, or they want to come as quickly as possible. And the man's partner is then more confident as well too, because there's no longer this rush to orgasm. Oh, you have an erection. I got to have an orgasm. There's no longer this rush. People my customers. I'm not calling my patients, but their customers. They are making love longer with less pressure because of the benefit of a ring. Not just the benefit of the technology, but the benefit of the ring. The technology is valuable. We've had 2 men get cardiac catheterizations that I'm aware of because their nocturnals went down. We've identified at least one adrenal tumor because he's a young man whose wife, he was in his 20s. His wife got him a ring because he couldn't perform. He looked physically fit, but he couldn't perform. Well, he had a significant adrenal problem that took a while to diagnose, but at least the ring alerted him, because men want to deny things even more than women do. The ring alerted him, you got a problem. You're in your 20s. You should be having 5, and you're having 2, and they're weak.
Interesting. Sounds like a very good way of connecting high technology to not only predict possible signals of health conditions, but also I'm very interested in is help treating performance anxiety, since I treat a lot of men's sexual performance anxiety in my office. And I know there's a lot of mental health psychological method we can help them to think differently, behave differently, practice certain things. It sounds like within a cock ring can really be a good assistant in this whole process, right?
Absolutely.
Help me understand, for the ring, I know most how it works, but for your ring, even when a man tends to get soft in the process of sex, when they are super anxious, the ring can still help them stay longer. That's how it is?
The ring holds the blood in. I'm going to give you an example, a personal example, if you don't mind. When I first came up with the form and the material, and again, we're talking about this soft elastomer here.
Mm-hmm.
It was February. I'm in Montana, and my wife and I are making love. And one of the things that many women do that men complain about, and they don't want to tell their wives or their partners, is some other women, even when they're really turned on, many women can start talking about something completely off the subject, as in something that happened with the kids, something that happened with their mother.
I hear that a lot.
Yeah, just a few weeks ago, my wife started redesigning our bedroom. That was a really good idea, and it wasn't. Anyway, it was February in Montana when we first came up with a form and material, and my wife suddenly remembered I forgot to close the garage door, and it was snowing outside. Now, as in most marriages, my wife was not going to jump out of bed and close the garage door. I had to do it. Now, we've been married a long time, and I'm a man, and I can't have a temper. And ordinarily, my reaction to this situation would have been lose my erection and get irritated. Like you couldn't hold on to that thought for five more minutes. So I went downstairs. Not only was the garage door open, but her back car door was open. She must have been taking something out of it. I closed those 2 doors, and as I'm coming up the stairs, she says, "Oh, bring me some tequila." Now, ordinarily, that would have been another explosive reaction, WTF reaction on my part. Like, you get your own damn tequila. We're not making love tonight. I'm irritated. But I got the tequila. I came upstairs, and she said, "You're still hard." So that's the power of the ring.
Interesting.
And then she joked. The garage door was open. She said that the tequila was a test. So a man who has an erection or knows he's not going to lose an erection is in a very different mindset. I'll give you another example. It'll be a personal one. It's because another thing that men talk about among themselves, but they're reluctant to talk about with their partners, and you probably have encountered this too, is boredom. So I'm married. My wife and I like love a lot, and we have a great relationship. But there are certain positions. I mean, she's had 3 kids. And so there's lack of friction in certain positions. There are certain positions he likes that for me there's a lack of friction and they're boring for me. We now And I would get irritated if she wanted to make love in those positions. I'm really thinking about the missionary position because I would lose my erection. Technically, I don't have ED. I mean, all men get ED. All men get venous leak, and we should talk about that in just a moment because that's what the ring benefits. All men get venous leak, but technically, I don't have ED. But I would get irritated if she wanted to make love at that position. But she likes it, especially after she's had a climax. But now I don't mind. Now I have the ring on. I'm a man with an erection. I love my wife. Hey, I might not want to come in that position, climax in that position. But if you want, if this pleases you, I'm happy to please you because I'm not gonna lose it. So what do I mean by venous leak? Well, venous leak comes in two categories. One, there are men who are born with it. This is a congenital problem. Their sphincters and their muscles are weak in their veins. These men discover this when they're teenagers and they're masturbating and they can't sustain an erection. And it's a hard problem. It requires surgery. It's a difficult problem to fix. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about venous leak of aging, which all men get and women get as well too. And so it's if I'm 71 years old, if I sit on a plane for 5 or 6 hours, my socks might get tight, my rings might get tight. Why? Because my small veins, my venules, have gotten stiff, and the muscles, small smooth muscles that pump the blood back to the heart, don't work as well as I get older, just aging. So I might get a little, so fluid accumulates in my fingers or my ankles. In the penis, where the blood just leaves the penis. So, a mechanical aid, so a good ring is a mechanical aid that helps men address this. Men don't even know this. A lot of men think they have performance anxiety. Yeah, well, you have performance anxiety because you first had venous leak. Because you had venous leak of aging, you then got performance anxiety. And what you're doing is so valuable, but I really think that you need to add rings to it because once you figure out under what circumstances a man is losing their erection, a ring can be if a man is getting blood in and losing it, a ring is an effective solution to issues of distraction. Women have vibrators, so vibrators, aside from the neurological stimulation for pleasure, the vibration itself keeps blood flowing into the clitoris and
Yes.
and helps maintain lubrication as well too. Men don't have that, and now men need to start thinking about rings as part of the solution to this problem of what I call a fading erection.
Fading erection. I like how you verbalize all this and give them much more reasonable descriptions than many medical terms. And I definitely want to talk about male-female sexual differences later. But
Sure.
I want to just share a little bit when you talk about rings, right? It's this kind of method, kind of like something there to help men hold it, or kind of there's some restriction function in there. In sex therapy, we have an edging technique, kind of like use hand instead of ring, right? Personal experience, when I start doing sex education in the Chinese community, I had a video in China talking about this edging technique and how to use this kind of technique to help men to increase their sexual pleasure. And that's the video I got mostly attacked by people in China, by men in China. They are just accusing me knowing nothing and hurting more men in the future, especially young men. And a lot of men jump up sharing their so-called personal stories, how such kind of practice cause their cancer and cause a lot of like health consequences. So I was shocked. Basically,
I'm shocked too.
A lot of men in China, they still believe like holding, just to not masturbate and really restrain your erections can be healthier way. And you should not even talk about masturbation. You should not even talk about this kind of edging technique. So I'm just curious what you think about from more like professional medical background.
I've heard this too, and it's usually with Westerners who've been influenced by so-called tantric sex practices. There is no matter of fact. Not only is there no benefit to withholding, it's actually bad. It's male sexual function, female sexual function too. It's use it or lose it. You can the smooth muscle in the penis needs to be used. You can't. I mean, we have. You probably do, maybe in your practice too. I have customers who complain to me. Well, gee, my wife died or I got divorced, and they're in their 40s or 50s, and then 5 years later they want to resume relationships, and these are more men who are very serious Christians, and they don't masturbate because they think it's sinful. And now it's like, hey, I'm healthy. I go to the gym. My heart's in good condition. I'm muscular, but my penis is atrophied because the penis will atrophy. The smooth muscle will atrophy too. You can't suddenly resume function. I mean, to draw an analogy, Dr. Yishan, if you and I both said, you know what, I'm not overweight. You're not overweight. But I'm overweight. I want to lose weight. I'm fasting for the next 30 days. And then we went to a 3-star Michelin restaurant and ordered a 12-course, tasting menu. Plus, we would get sick. We couldn't because the smooth muscle in our esophagus and our gastrointestinal system will have atrophy. We won't be able to handle it. You have to. It's the same thing with the smooth muscle in the pelvis. You can't exercise these muscles in the gym. You have to exercise these muscles by having sex and by urinating. But yeah, but largely by having sex. Otherwise, they will atrophy. Edging is a powerful technique for putting more blood in the penis and actually having a more profound orgasm. I have encountered men who have the same belief. I think it's less prevalent but I have men utilizing our ring to try to demonstrate to themselves, a tech ring, to try to demonstrate to themselves that if I don't have sex for a month, I will be harder, I'll last longer, etc. They're not finding that to be the case. They're not finding, this is anecdotal, but not finding that abstinence or just edging and not climaxing leads to any improvement in how their number of nocturnals, how hard they last. I think it's wrong. As far as edging goes, put more blood in the penis. A ring will help to hold the blood in the penis, and then there's taking a pill. So we did a study internally, and there's a woman studies independently of detumescence. So detumescence is the time it takes for an erection to go down where it can't penetrate anymore after climax. So the longer an erection, the more time it takes for an erection to go down, the more blood that's held in the penis. So we studied 11 men. This woman's studying a larger study, about 30 men. We studied 11 men aged 28 to 70. I was the oldest person. With nothing, an erection went down, I think it was like 28 seconds. With tadalafil, which is the most commonly prescribed PD5 medication, Cialis, it was a little bit over 2 minutes. So that's improvement. It's holding more blood in the penis. With the ring, our maximum performance ring, it was over 4 minutes. The ring was more effective, twice as effective as tadalafil. But both together was even more effective. Both together was over 5 minutes. So the takeaway really from men is, if you want to last longer, have a more intense orgasm, put a ring on it. And if you really want to be at your ultimate, take a pill and a ring. Edging's good too, though. The issue with edging is really is patience. I have men who tell me that they can't do it because they can't stop themselves from climaxing. Well, that's a question of discipline. I do think that edging is a way of on the medical side of building up the smooth muscle strength.
Yeah, great to have another aspect to really and help understand. I actually never know it's something use it or lose it. But I think your explanation totally makes sense. And that makes me wonder the difference between man and woman. I know men and women have very different sexual paths within our system, especially psychologically. That's what I focus more on. But I am interested to understand your expertise
Sure.
in this. Yeah.
one, we have tested a device for measuring blood flow in the clitoris, essentially measuring the health, the health of the clitoris, because ultimately you got to get blood in, or it's not going to happen. That's why people with diabetes, or hypertension, or atherosclerosis, who are taking medications that interfere with blood flow, like the antidepressants, that's why they have problems. So, we will come out with that device probably realistically the third quarter next year, unless someone. I know how to do it. I'm paying for it. This out of my own money. If someone wants to write me a check for $750,000, if any listeners do, I can bring it out a lot faster. But it'll happen because women have actually more issues than men do. Why? And I'd like to say a lot of women want to say it's men's fault, but let's not focus on the war between the sexes. Younger women, premenopausal women, take hormones. Many do take hormones, birth control, which interfere with their sexual performance, and they don't know what the right dose is because we doctors, it's one size fits all. Whereas, so if you have data, you can then say, that's the wrong dose for me. I got to try a different dose or a different combination. And that's why the technology wearable is to be so valuable. Younger women also take more antidepressants than men do, and that is unfortunate because those medications are, from my perspective, I call them the click killers. And cock killers. They're toxic to arousal. Older women lose their hormonal protection against heart disease, and they have all the same problems that men do, and more problems with obesity, diabetes, hypertension, metabolic diseases, atherosclerosis. So, and they go through menopause. Andropause in men takes longer. Menopause happens faster. Women do have vibrators, though, and the typical recommendation of a gynecologist for older women is, "Hey, try a vibrator." But they don't really. Is that enough? So what? For my entire medical career, and only until recently, hormone replacement therapy in women was questioned. Oh, you could get cancer, and women were kind of scared away from taking it. But now it's acceptable. Now it'd be uncommon for a postmenopausal woman who wants to have an active sex life, and the benefits that come from that. We haven't even talked about the benefits of sex, and we should in a little bit. And the benefits, both psychological, partnership-wise, and overall health-wise, cardiovascular health-wise, that come from sex are profound. But if women should be taking testosterone. That's the missing hormone. So when women go through menopause, they don't just stop producing estrogen and progesterone; they stop producing testosterone. Right. And they're much more responsive to it than men are because they only require small amounts. So I'll just talk about my wife for a moment with an anecdote. I started my wife on testosterone last fall, and for her it was like a film being taken off a mirror, off a window, if you will, because she felt, well, she's always enjoyed sex, but she wasn't in the mindset of wanting sex. That's different. She get turned on. If we started making love, she'd get turned on and she'd be satisfied. But she didn't want it the way she did when she was, say, 25 or 30 years old. It just took a small amount of testosterone to totally change that mindset, where she's suddenly, oh, I want it. As a matter of fact, I'm looking at men differently. She would, start noticing attractive men. I don't. And by the way, I don't care. But that to her, that was like a marker. It was like, well, I kind of went from being indifferent to being interested, like I was, and talk quote her when I was 35, 40 years old. Matter of fact, she once kind of like teasingly after a couple of drinks said, "You should have started me on this years ago because we missed out on a lot of good times." And I have prescribed it for other women, and I'm confident that within the next 3 years, that will become the standard of care, giving testosterone postmenopausal women. Yeah. And then, so let's just call that an equalizer for women. That's there. But doctors need to open their mind to it. And then they kind of, these scary things about, oh, you'll get acne, you'll get a mustache. Well, it's not like you wake up with, looking like Adolf Hitler in the morning. It's dose related. I mean, you can, like if a woman started getting, whatever, facial hair or back acne, whatever, just you're taking too much. The dose is wrong. The changes aren't permanent.
Yeah. And because we always talk about the brain is the biggest sex organ, and I know for women, a lot of sexual arousal is not just based on physical touching and physical arousal. It's part of that is psychological arousal.
Sure.
And sounds like hormone change, for if it's used at the right dosage, and that really works for that specific person or a certain age group. And it can really help, not only physically, but psychologically.
Yeah, well, look, we can't make the partners more interesting. That's hard. If someone doesn't, wants to be with someone who has a sense of humor and they don't have it, you're not going to change that by taking testosterone or by using the cock ring. But there are aspects of dysfunction, if you will, that can be addressed with a ring or with hormones. We're all of us, men and women, on the road from sexual fitness. We're born sexually fit. We leave puberty sexually fit. We're all on the road from fitness to dysfunction. We all would like to know, well, where are we on that road? We don't have a map. We don't have a GPS. Can't put a pin in it. We can't look under the hood and say, how's my engine? How's my battery? How are my fluids? Because we don't have data. And the great thing about data is you now have a dashboard. You now can say, this is where I am. And here are the 5 here are 3 medications I'm taking. And now, if I don't take this medication or I change the dose, how does my sexual performance change? Do I last longer? Am I firmer? Because with women or with our device, we're measuring clitoral engorgement. It's not as obvious in women as in men because so much of the clitoris is hidden always, but it can be the size of the clitoris and blood flow into the clitoris can be measured, and that's a female erection.
So sounds like sex is really helpful to our health. Pay attention to nocturnal erection can predict some health conditions. Amazing, right? What do you think about today's conversation? Welcome to leave a message down below if you're watching the YouTube channel, Dr. Yishan, or leave a message down below the Apple podcast. If you want to get more information about sleep health, welcome to subscribe our email newsletter. Thank you for watching and listening. I'm Dr. Yishan. I will see you next time. Bye.